All right, I've got good news, Dr. Woods, and I've got better news. The good news is we're live, okay? The
Yes.
better news is we're here. For those folks that are here, welcome to the Speak and Sell 5-day challenge. And first, I just want to acknowledge you all for being here. I want to acknowledge you for the winner that you are, the champion you are. My name, by the way, is Shay Brown, and that's the one and only, the lovely, the fantastic, the one you all know as, and tell them your name, please.
Dr. Cheryl Wood in the building. Excited to be here for this challenge.
Excited to be here, Dr. Wood. And, you know, if we can just be transparent with the folks, because this is not one of those, conversations where we're just here to give them a bunch of information and tell them all things that they should do. This is one of those conversations where they get a chance to actively participate each day, and not only actively participate, but get something done. Right? Whether it's and taking their story to another level, whether it's taking their business to another level, and they're able to do that. But before we get started, can you take 2 minutes? Because for those folks that are out there to say, what happens when you get rattled? What happens when things don't go the way they should? What happens when you're all fired up and ready to go, and for whatever reason, technology happens, the host changed something, and you and I just experienced that. I know we don't have to go into the details, but there might be some folks that might be curious, dang, what do? You can't quit. What goes through Dr. Cheryl Wood's mind when technology doesn't work the way it should work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just, first of all, come into business expecting that. Come into business speaking or whatever it is that is your field of expertise. Come in knowing that nothing will ever be perfect. And I think when you create that as your mindset, from day one, like this journey is going to be filled with ups and downs and peaks and valleys, highs and lows. I'm not only going to have great days, great moments, great technology. Sometimes everything's going to fall apart. But I believe that when you are having breakdowns, it is because you are on the cusp of your greatest breakthrough. So today we just experienced that. In the past 15 minutes, Shay has been working, feverishly on getting the technology to work with us, even though we were here and ready and fired up since 12:45, 12:30. We've been on the line. And technology had a different plan. So we had to shift and we had to be able to pivot quickly without coming in a space of overwhelm. Like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. This isn't going to happen. I can't make this. You can make anything that you put your mind to happen. You can create a plan of action even when everything you plan breaks down. I will give myself as another example. I am 23 days out from my signature annual conference, which is my biggest event of the year. And everything that you can imagine has broken down. Everything. And I won't even go into the details. And that's in spite of me planning it for a full year. All the stuff I had in place, all the planning I've done, all the orchestration and the logistics and here I am 23 days out, and things that I did not expect to break down have broken down. And I don't sit and say, oh my God, now we're going to have to cancel the conference or this isn't going to happen. I remain fluid and flexible. And fluid and flexible simply means nothing's going to stop this show from moving on. And I take a deep breath and I acknowledge that I have what it takes to be a person who creates solutions, and I keep things moving. So I think if you come in with that type of perspective for your speaking business, your anything that's related to growing you, growing your money, growing your brand, growing your impact, you will be just fine.
I love the way you said it. And for those folks that are out there right now, that got a chance you're tuned in, you signed up, do me a favor. We're going to jump into it. This is not one of those ones where it's just about talking. Dr. Cheryl, I know you're going to be talking about stories and the importance of it, and not just from a broad perspective, but for many of you, you're going to have an opportunity to not only hear today, not only apply some principles she's going to share, but you also have an opportunity to do it. So this is about you learn something and then you do something. You learn something and then you do something. When Dr. Wood and I was behind the scenes and I was talking, she said, hey, I got it. Just tell me what I need to do because I got it. And some of you, this might all be about taking action, checking the boxes so you can move the needle. And I know for those of you who want to not only get hired and get paid to speak, but you also want to be in the business of speaking and coaching, then this will be a transformational week. And that's one of the words that Dr. Woods used me when I was talking to her about something else. So Shay, there has to be a transformation. I thought, whoa, wait a minute. No, there has to be a transformation that they can continue to do. So Dr. Wood, if I can, they're there, and I just want to jump right into it and talk to them about the power of using stories and maybe a formula or two. There's so many out there that you use that they can take away today and use right now, and even get a chance to practice it. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so of course we intended to use a different platform, and I had these beautiful slides prepared, which I have no idea how to share them now. But what do we do, y'all? Type it in the chat. What do? We are fluid and flexible. We keep things moving. So you are going to get this content one way or another. We are going to take action one way or another. Nothing is going to stop the show. And you've got to feel that way about your business, your speaking, whatever it is that you feel you are committed to. You might be committed to a specific message as a part of your business. You might be committed to starting a certain movement through your business, or you might have a certain mission that you are trying to accomplish. Whatever it is, just know that your voice is such a pivotal part of that process in getting your message, your mission, or your movement out to the masses.
And question, Dr. Wood, I'll let you continue. Do you see a big button below that says present?
I do see that button, and I see slides. And
no. Do you see what says share screen?
Do you see that
button?
Yes.
Just check on yours. I'll take you off camera for a minute. Just check on, I removed you so they can't see you, but just check when you hit preset. Ladies and gentlemen, we switched from Zoom to another platform. Now we're on StreamYard, which I don't use, but you go to slides, it looks like extra camera, then it says share screen. Does that work for you or no? Did I not give those permissions? Oh, I can't hear you because I took you off screen.
Okay. It says choose, and I see, it says Microsoft PowerPoint,
you know
but when I click share, it doesn't let me share.
Just go with the flow, ladies and gentlemen. Inside your handbook, which you will all receive, because I want to make sure we get to this, not content. I want to make sure you get something today you can walk away with. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So Dr. Woods, you take it away. We'll make the promise that we'll take what you have. We'll include some of that in the workbook, and then there'll be an assignment that they can use. And maybe if you send me the screenshots later, we'll post those into the group. So if you're out there right now and you're like, you know what? I know I have another level inside of me. I know I can always get better because superstars believe they have the potential inside of them to get a little bit better. Do me a favor. Over in the Facebook group, just say, go, Dr. Wood, go. She's going to go anyway. She don't need you to do that, but just say, go, Dr. Woods, go. All right, Dr. Woods, I'm going to go and turn over you because this is the most important part. Captivating stories, being able to share their message. Without that, the rest doesn't happen. So I'm just going to turn over you.
Yeah. So to think about life in general, how do we typically pass down information? It's most times passed down through storytelling. So think about at the end of your day, when you come home and you're talking to your spouse and they ask you, so how was your day? What most times do you usually go into? Let me tell you about this joker on the job. Man, oh man. Let me tell you what happened today. Or if you ask your kids, what happened? How was school today? Did anything exciting happen? Anything? Well, my teacher did ... Or this happened in the classroom. Everything that we do as humans, our innate human nature is to pass down information and share information through storytelling. So whether it's a story about your day, a story about something that happened, a story about something that you saw or you witnessed that impacted you, storytelling must be a part of your speaking business if you really want to get paid and you want to earn well, right? I'll just use that, earn well, because your earning well could be different than someone else's earning well. For you, 6 figures might be fine. You're like, I just want to hit 6 figures. For you, it might be 7 figures. For some of you, it might be 8 figures. But I'm here to share with you, if you're really going to make the greatest impact, and that is equally going to be the greatest amount of profits that you can create, then you have to incorporate storytelling as a part of your process when you're speaking. Some of us are very technical speakers, and we might get on a platform and we typically are just giving bullet points. So I want you to remember this, and I want you to always remind yourself of this. People remember and repeat stories, not bullet points. Type that in your notes, write it in your notes, jot down a note. People remember and repeat stories, not bullet points. And why is that so important? Well, imagine someone who comes to a full day conference and it's from 9 in the morning to 5, and how many speakers they hear. There's no way that any of us are ever going to remember every bullet point that every speaker gave. I've never in 12 years had anyone come up to me and say, oh my God, oh, your bullet point number 3 was amazing. I've decided that I want to transform my life because of that bullet point number 3. Never had it happen in 12 years. However, I have had people run up to me at the end of a presentation in tears streaming down their face. And they say, oh my God, when you shared the story about going to the job that you weren't in love with and dropping your kids off at 6 in the morning and not picking them up until 6 at night. Oh my God, you were talking to me. You were telling my story. How do I work with you so I can change the trajectory of my own life? That's what I've had happen over and over and over. And it doesn't matter if it's in a big company, a corporation. It doesn't matter if it's NASA that I'm speaking for, which I've spoken for. It doesn't matter if I'm over in South Africa speaking to college girls. It doesn't matter. It never fails that people remember and repeat stories, not bullet points. So yes, your content is important because we don't want presentations that are filled with just fluff. We do want people to have some core knowledge that they can implement something when they go home. But what I'm telling you is that, as Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said. They will forget what you did, but they will never forget what, y'all. Type it in the chat. They will never forget what. Who knows? People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget. Who knows? And I think my chat is a little lagging behind, so I don't want to just spurt it out. There you go. How you make them feel. And the how you make them feel is always connected to storytelling. How did I make them feel? So I'm going to give you some powerful tools that I use when I'm storytelling and some things to think about. And then I'm going to give you an assignment because, again, this 5-day challenge is not just about you getting the knowledge. It's not just about you getting strategy. It's about you implementing the strategy. I want you to put this in your notes. Knowledge is power, but knowledge executed is my superpower. Ooh, isn't that just juicy? Knowledge is power, but knowledge executed is my superpower, because in your superpower, it means you are actually doing something with what you have learned. And that is what gets you to the next level. And again, everybody's next level is different. And what you want doesn't have to look like what I want or what Shay wants or what anybody else on this challenge wants. What do you want? What are you trying to accomplish? And what are you willing to deposit into it so that you can accomplish it? So your deposits are reflected by the work that you put in, the work that you do, what you execute, what you implement, how you show up and you actually participate or you execute on the things that you've learned. Okay, those are our deposits. And then when we've deposited, we can ultimately get a withdrawal. So you can never get a withdrawal without first putting in the deposits. So let's first talk about the importance and the impact of stories. Stories are critical because, and this is whether you're speaking in a one-on-one conversation to a potential customer or you're speaking to a big group of people, when you incorporate stories, number one, it allows the listener to see why you care about the topic that you're speaking on or why you care about them getting transformation. So your story should be connected to something that you have personally experienced, not necessarily something that you read in a book, even though that can be a part of it. But what a lot of people leave out, entrepreneurs leave out, is their own personal story. And that story can be a story of triumph. It can be a story of pain. It can be a story of redemption. Like there are a lot of different stories that you can pull in. But at the end of the day, I don't only want to hear about somebody else's story that you're telling me. I don't only want to hear about stuff that you read in a book. I want to hear your truth. What's your authentic truth that shows me that, number one, you understand the pain that I'm currently in or the desire that I want to fill, and that demonstrates to me that you know the answer of how to take me on the journey to get on the other side of the pain that I'm in or the desire that I want to fill. And also it shows me how much you care, why you care, not just how much you care, but why you care about it. Because just imagine if you've gone through something in life, and I believe all of us have gone through something that we thought was going to truly break us, but we ended up breaking through the thing that we thought was going to break us. And therefore, how could you ever go through that thing and then know that there are other people who are currently stuck in that space that you once were stuck in and not share with them how to get out? That would be, you would say, if I asked you that, you would say that's crazy. If I had a cure for something, and let's say it was a physical ailment, and I didn't share the cure, you would think I was selfish. You would think I was crazy. You would probably call me all kind of names. Every single one of you, as a part of this challenge, you have a cure for someone's pain. Like, really sit in that for a minute. You have the cure for someone's pain. And no, it might not be a medical pain or a physical pain, but it could be a pain that is keeping them stuck and held hostage where they are, even though they want to move forward. So if you have the cure for someone else's pain, then why wouldn't you share that? And storytelling becomes a part of you being able to share that cure. And then the other part of sharing your story is that it allows people to see themselves in you. So when I share my story of working as a legal secretary for 15 years in corporate America, because that's what I knew how to do. I didn't have a college degree. So I felt kind of like I was stuck in that space for a long time. And I felt like I was never going to be able to be a giant in the world because I didn't have enough letters behind my name. I didn't have any letters behind my name at the time. When I share that story, I am speaking to a specific segment of the audience and a specific segment of the population who is currently stuck in the pain I was stuck in. And my pain that's connected to that story, it was, God, I know that I'm meant to make an impact in the world, and I'm meant to leave my fingerprint on the world, and it is not connected to this XYZ company. Because for as long as I come here and I punch a time clock for this XYZ company, I am building their dream. I am helping them to accomplish their financial goals. I am helping them to leave their fingerprint on the world. But God, when is it my turn? How do I leave my fingerprint on the world? How do I create something that will long outlive my physical body and allow me to serve the world with my brilliance? That's what I desired. So when I share that story from stage, I'm automatically perking up the ears of people who are in a space where they feel like there has to be something else. And look, and I want to be very clear. This is so important. We're not bashing jobs. We're not bashing having a job. We're not telling you go quit your job because Dr. Cheryl said, I got to leave my own fingerprint. No, that's not what we're saying. You still have to be fiscally responsible to your family, to whatever it is that you have going on. So I didn't, even when I felt that pulling and that tugging in my spirit, I didn't just leave. You know, people like, just leave, girl, just quit the job. Okay, am I going to be able to bring my family of 5 to your house and live because we don't have no way to pay our mortgage? No. So that's not what we're doing here. This is not bashing jobs. This is not diminishing you because you have a job. It simply is a reminder for me when I'm speaking. It's a reminder to the people that have a pulling on their spirit that are saying, you know what? The season of building someone else's thing is done. Y'all know we have seasons in our lives. Like everything is about a season. It's about a new chapter, a next chapter. So it's okay to say, I've outgrown that season. That season served me well for as long as it was supposed to serve me. Like me getting the check, direct deposit. Whoo, amen. Amen. Amen for direct deposit check. It's a beautiful thing. Like you don't even have to be a great employee.
Amen for direct deposit, spot on. And as you was talking, I'm gonna toss it back to you. But as you was talking and you said amen, I'm curious if later on, I know you're going to mention it, folks. I'm sure got a story as well. And if you're out there right now and you just have a story inside you, we're over in the Facebook group. She's all intent right now. She's like in the moment with you here. Y'all talking to her like online. I'm in the Facebook group like she's there, but she is here. But if you have a story and there's a message and a deep burning desire, inside to help other folks, do us a favor, just right below in the comments, even if you're listening to the recording of this, like you've got the long lost file and you're watching the replay because you had mommy duty earlier, as Cheryl always reminds me, or you had your 9-to-5 duty, all the 9-to-5 millionaires out there, just look below and just put, I have a story that will bless someone else? Just do me a favor. Just look right below. I'm going to turn right over you, Cheryl. You made me laugh, but I know they have that inside them. And if that's you, yeah, Cheryl, continue on. But I want to see all the folks. I have a story inside of me that will bless someone else, make their life better, and make a difference in the world long after you're gone. And Cheryl, your story is going to certainly inspire little girls and little boys all over the world, and a lot of big boys and big girls who want to do more, be more, have more, and give more. So I'm going to turn it back over to you. But I'm laughing over here. But she can't read y'all comments right now, okay? She's right now tuned in. So you can still talk to her, but she can't talk back to you. Back over, Cheryl. Go over there.
Yeah. So for me, it was just understanding that I was moving into a new season, and it's okay for you to move into a new season. And so when we wrap all that up into our stories, we do, as Shay mentioned, we want to acknowledge that I have a story that's worth sharing. Someone is waiting on my story, and they will not move until they hear my story. And some of us, I think the biggest thing that I want to do is really, I want you to give yourself permission to stop running in shame from your story, to stop running and hiding and feeling like you're less than from your story. Here's what I learned from all the mess that I've been through in my life. My story was going to be the catalyst for me creating wealth. I'm going to repeat that again. My story, and I want you to own this for yourself. My story will become the catalyst for me creating wealth. Because as much as people love to hear about your success, and I can talk about being a 7-figure earner, and I can talk about I've traveled to Africa and India, and I can tell you all the good stuff, the juicy stuff about my journey. But when people are in pain, it's very hard for them to only hear about your joy and your successes. They need to hear and know that you were once in pain, and so you get them. And that's what I just talked about a couple minutes ago, that they can see themselves in you. So it's critical that we don't remove ourselves so far from the stuff that we've been through that we're not able to revisit that pain, remember what it was like, and then share it in a way on stage that it drives home to the listening audience that you get them, and you wouldn't dare leave them in the pain that they're in. You wouldn't dare leave them in the space that they're in without allowing them to have strategies for getting to a place that they desire. So every time you're sharing your story, what I want you to think about is this: does my story build common ground with the audience? The way that I'm expressing it, the way that I'm sharing it, is it building common ground? Am I making sure that I'm not only sharing the big me, and that the big me is the success part of you, but am I making sure that I also go back and tap into the valleys that I experience and the lows that I experience, so they understand that I get where they are right now, and I'm not so far removed that I can't relate to them? That's number one. So does it build common ground with the audience? Number two, do the stories that I'm sharing, do they validate my talking points? So we talked about content and storytelling, and they're equally necessary when you're speaking on any platform or to any prospect. But the question becomes, are you creating a balance, right? Or as we call it, like a beautiful dance between content and storytelling. So I can have these 5 core things or 3 core things that I'm giving the audience. Hey, here's the things that you want to do if you want to share your story better, or if you want to make more sales, or if you want to, whatever the thing is you're teaching. But the question becomes, am I making sure that I pull in stories that validate whatever those takeaways and talking points are? Here's number 3. Do my stories package my message in a memorable way? And I'll get to that in a moment. Packaging it in a memorable way is related to how you relay the story. Are you telling the story, or are you showing the story? And I'll get to that in a moment. And then last but not least, number 4, do my stories inspire my audience to take immediate action? So every time you're sharing your stories, you need to make sure that you are connecting it to, hey, if you want this, or you want something similar to this, this is the action that you've got to start taking. This is the action that I took. And a lot of times that's connected to certain choices, that's connected to certain decisions that we made. And then you want to connect that to the audience's choices and to their decisions. So again, it's this balancing act, or this beautiful dance between, here's what to do, but let me give you an illustration or an example or a metaphor through my own truth, my own stories, that will drive home the point even more so. All right, if you got that, just type that in the chat. Got it, Dr. Cheryl. Got it. because I want to make sure that you're following me as I'm going through. So storytelling, I compartmentalize stories into two elements, right? There's supporting stories, and then there's a signature story. So let me hit the signature story first. I said them in reverse, but I'm going to give you the kind of the breakdown in reverse. So signature story is almost your life story that you're sharing, and that will get you paid because people will come to know you for that story. They will know your story better than you know your story. Like they will know, just like I know Lisa Nichols' story. I know that she was in a space of scarcity in her life. She had her son, Jelani. He was a baby. She was on government assistance. She was so broke that she couldn't even afford to buy Pampers for Jelani at the time when he was an infant. She had to wrap him in towels for 2 days. Y'all see how I know the story? How do I know the story, and why do I know the story? I know the story because she's been telling the story over and over and over again, because it is her signature story. It's her life story. What's the life story that you want to relive, retell, and repeat? What's the life story that you want to relive, retell, repeat? And I would add to that, rehash or revisit, because you have to mentally be willing to go back to that place and go back to the pain that you experienced, so that you take your audience with you to that place, so that they understand that you get them, that you haven't become so far removed from where you were that you no longer understand the pain that they're currently stuck in. And this is the story that you're going to incorporate some portion of this story every time you speak. So you are always going to hear me talk about, how many of you heard my signature story already? A piece of it in today's content. Did anybody, can you type in the chat, what did you hear that I shared about today that you think is my signature story? I just gave you a little nuggets of it, little pieces of it.
And you have two chats going on at the same time. You're looking in StreamYard, and then there's the chat that's in the Facebook group. But go ahead. You follow what you got right there.
So I want to know, did anybody hear a portion, a little nugget of my life story already?
Pat Russell says yes.
What was it?
Says yes.
Right, but tell me, what was it? Like, give me just a little bit of what was it? Yes, I see somebody over here on StreamYard. Yes, the 15 years as a legal secretary. Yep, working legal secretary with no degree and no way out. Yep, working as an assistant in a cubicle. Yep, job secretary that I didn't let. Yes, so I already gave you a little bit. And then did you hear the pieces that wrapped around it? I also talked about dropping my kids off at 6 a.m, not picking them up until 6 p.m. So that was connected to my dissatisfaction with being on a job, because I wanted freedom. Now, I didn't give you all that yet because I'm in teaching mode. I'm not in a keynote. I'm not in a, right? This is very different. And that's also, we'll talk about that later in the week during the challenge. The difference between training and facilitating versus keynoting. The difference between keynoting versus, you're on a panel. So the way that I teach and train, you get a different style, delivery style, than if I'm keynoting. But nonetheless, every time you hear me speak or present, you're always going to hear a portion of my story. Even if I don't give you the 3 to 5 minute version, you're going to hear a portion of it, because that is my signature story. And that's what I want you repeating afterwards. Even when we're after this challenge, I want you to be like, oh yeah, because she was a secretary for 15 years. Yeah, I heard her story. So that has to be a consistent story. That has to be a consistent story that you're willing to share over and over and over again. All right, let me go to the next part, because I know we're on limited time, and y'all know Dr. Cheryl love what she do, so I be getting excited, Shay. So next is your supporting stories. So you got signature story, and then you have supporting stories. Those are the two brackets that I break down my stories. Supporting stories are those stories that I mentioned a little bit earlier that drive home the talking point, that drive home the takeaway. So because people tend to remember and repeat stories, not bullet points, I always, after I give them some type of talking point or takeaway, want to pull in a story so they can remember it. Because again, in 12 years, I've never had anybody come up and say, oh my God, your bullet point number 2 was amazing. Like, it changed my life. No, but I've had people come and say, oh my God, when you shared the story about. So I always want to drive home the story. So let me give a quick example. So when I am talking about the importance of standing in position and powerfully in position based on what your gifting is, and not comparing that to anybody else, especially in this world of social media, I always share a quote. And the quote is that comparison is the thief of all joy, right? And then I share a story. And I say, I remember I had been invited to speak at this conference. And the conference was in New York City. I was so excited because I love having the opportunity to travel to New York. Now, I don't want to live there, but I like visiting and coming back home. But I was excited because the person who was hosting this event mentioned that there were going to be about 300 attendees in the audience, mostly women. And that was my jam, was speaking to women. And they told me there were only going to be 4 women who were on the roster. And those women were Mickey Taylor, who's the editor at large of Essence Magazine, Sharia Jackson, who was at the time the relationship expert, lifestyle expert of Essence Magazine, Sophia Nelson, who was a New York Times best-selling author and a White House correspondent. And y'all guess who the 4th person was? Me, Cheryl Wood. Now, I wasn't even Dr. Cheryl Wood at the time. I was Cheryl Wood. No doctor, nothing. So when I realized the 4 women that was on the roster and that all of them had some high level position, but that I didn't, I started going into comparison mode. And automatically, even though I was so excited, within 60 seconds, I deflated that excitement, because all I could think was, well, nobody's coming to see me. I'm not going to get the love that these other women who are in Essence Magazine and a White House correspondent. And I went into comparison mode. And I'll never forget, the host called me and said, hey, you can bring your books to sell. And when I hung up the phone, all I thought to myself was, I'm not bringing nothing, because nobody's going to be buying my stuff. They're going to be standing in line buying Mickey Taylor's book, and they're going to stand in line buying Sophia Nelson's book. No, but I'm not bringing my books, and I'm going to be sitting at the table looking stupid. Y'all, this is the conversation I was having with myself in the moment. And in that moment, how many of you have ever had a moment where like you could hear a higher voice speaking to you? You ain't know, okay, you like, okay, God, is you talking to me, but you could vividly hear the voice. I could vividly hear the voice that said, I keep showing you that you are enough. I keep proving to you that you are more than enough. I keep putting you on the stages that will allow you to see the greatness that's in you. When are you going to believe it? Woo! And in that moment, when I heard that voice of reasoning that became louder than my voice of comparison, everything shifted. Y'all, I put everything in my suitcase that I had at the house to sell. Every book, every CD. We were selling CDs at the time. Everything I had, I put it in my suitcase and I went up to New York. And when I got there, I reminded myself, just be authentically you. You got 18 minutes to impact this room, to shift the trajectory of the room, to shift the energy of the room by just being you. And don't get up here and act new. That was my thing, y'all. It's like, don't get up here and act new now, because you know you ain't go to college. Don't be saying no big words that you don't know what it means, Cheryl. Just be authentically you. And I went on that stage, and on the front row was sitting the other 3 ladies, Mickey Taylor, Sharia Jackson, and Sophia Nelson. And I was nervous and my heart was racing and my palms were sweating, but I just kept saying, you are enough. You are worthy. You belong here. Just be you. And in that 18 minutes, I gave that room everything that I had based on Cheryl, based on who I am, based on what I've been through, based on knowing I was good enough, based on knowing that somebody in that room needed what I gave to the room, not Mickey, not Sharia, not Sophia, but what I could bring to the room. And after that 18 minutes of just being authentically me, I got a standing ovation. Someone at the end tapped me on the shoulder and said, you got to come out to the front of the building, because there's a line wrapped around the foyer for people who are waiting to buy your book. Comparison is the thief of all joy. Imagine if I had stayed in comparison mode. Imagine the blessings I would have blocked myself from. Imagine the profit I would have blocked myself from, because I wouldn't have brought the items, the CDs, the books to sell at that event. So what are you blocking yourself from? Because you are comparing yourself to somebody else. So again, number 2, don't waste time comparing. Let's move to number 3. Okay, did y'all see that? That was literally me showing you the story. That everything that I just did was, I was in story mode. Did you guys know that? Did you pick that up? Did you gather that? How did that make you feel? Let's just tap into that really quickly. What did you feel from that? That whole last, 3-4 minutes, I was in story mode. And that's literally how I shared the story. And did you see at the end, I pretended that my talking point, I just for, the sake of showing you, I pretended that my talking point was, don't waste your time comparing yourself. So I brought it back to the talking point. So I said, again, number 2 is, Don't waste time comparing yourself. Now let's move to number 3. And then I go into whatever my next talking point is, but I'm always going to have a short story that's going to connect to the takeaway or the talking point because it becomes memorable. Most of you will never forget that. You'll never forget that story. And when I show it through the emotion and what I was saying to myself and the voice I heard, and that is what you remember because that's how we pass down information. So someone said, let's see. I felt really empowered. Someone else said empowered. Someone else said it was empowering to know you had been through this. Someone said, I now fully understand how to share the story with the talking point. And yeah, and that, but did you also catch the end? Because remember, this is not just about speaking. This is also about selling. And did you notice how I was able to sell those books? And I connected that in the story to the impact that I could make, not only the impact that I could make, but the money that I could make, because I said what? People were lined up around the front of the building in the foyer area to buy my books. Now I can connect that to whatever I'm talking about in that speech. And I can say, so how many of you ... whatever my ... is behind that. Does that make sense, everybody? So if I want to connect, I'm trying to give you guys an example. So if I want to connect it to investing in yourself, I want to pour that in. I want to make sure I pull that in as a part of my storytelling, because anything that I'm trying to sell needs to be connected to my story. Somebody said, I caught that, and I caught that you need to sell the product. Yes. So we're not just talking about speaking. We're not just talking about serving. We're also talking about selling. So I can connect that to say, so how many of you are keeping yourself stuck from generating the level of profits that you know you can because you're so worried about comparing yourself to what somebody else has and what they're doing that you won't even make the offer? And that then can connect to whatever I'm selling. So that's the other piece of it, is really making sure that whatever you are speaking about, that you're connecting it to what you're selling. So let me give you these quick four what I call storytelling rules of thumb. And this is one of them. So let's start with that one. Number 1, connect your stories to whatever you're selling. So if I'm going to be selling coaching at the end of the speech, I want to make sure my stories point to how coaching has impacted my life, how it has shifted the trajectory of where I was going, how it has impacted who I'm becoming. Because now I want to bring it back full circle when I actually make the pitch or the sale, that coaching is the thing that will help you to change the trajectory of your life. Does that make sense? Okay, let me give another example. If I'm going to sell books, I want to make sure that some of my stories hone in on how books and having a success library has allowed me to grow, has allowed me to develop, has allowed me to shift something about myself and about my mindset that then shifted my actions. And my actions started to become in alignment with what I was reading in books. Well, what am I going to do by the end of that speech? I'm going to make sure I'm pointing them to come back and be a part of my book signing. So for the next 30 minutes, I'll be in the lobby doing a book signing. Come out and get your book, because you need to grow your success library, because your success library is going to be the very thing that impacts your mindset, which dictates your actions. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? If so, just say picking it up. That's all. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Connect your stories, at least a few of the stories, to what you're selling. If I'm selling tickets to my conference at that event that I'm speaking at, and this is virtually or live, I'm going to make sure that some of my stories talk about the way that I had to connect with a community of other like minds who were cut from a similar cloth as me. And how did I connect with those communities? Well, I got on a plane, a train, a bus, a car, whatever I needed to do to travel to conferences where I could be in the space with like-minded people. Why? Because they're not coming to me. I've got to go and I've got to find them. I've got to seek out the things that I want. And by being in community and rubbing shoulders with other people who are a little cray-cray like me, because you got to be a little cray-cray to be an entrepreneur, right? Then I want to make sure I hone in on that point. And then when I come around and I get to the selling part of my speech, what am I selling? Tickets to my conference. I'm just saying. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? So that's one of the key storytelling rules, is make sure it connects to what you're selling. All right, here's the last three. The second one is show the story, don't tell the story, which you've heard me say several times during this presentation. And I kind of gave you a little bit for, we don't have a lot of time, but I showed you the story. So I talked about I hear this voice, and then I put everything in my suitcase and I took it to that event, and I went through my thought process. So I want to make you feel like you were there. I'm hoping that when you all heard that story, visually in your mind, you could see me putting all those books and CDs in my suitcase. Visually in my mind, I'm hoping that you could see me at the front of that room, nervous. My heart was racing. My hands were sweating as Mickey Taylor, Sharia Jackson, and Sophia Nelson are on the front row, and I'm about to give my 18-minute speech. Hopefully you could visually see that. Hopefully you could visually see me having this warring in myself of, oh, you're not good enough. But then hearing, this voice saying, no, I keep telling you you're good enough. You got this. You are enough. You are worthy. Hopefully you visually could see that. That's the job in showing the story, not telling the story. Now, I could have just said, so when I got this invitation to go and speak in New York, I was nervous. I was like, well, I don't think I'm qualified for this, because there were all these other amazing women who were going to be speaking on the stage. But I decided to just go ahead anyway, take my books and hopefully sell stuff. And sure enough, I did sell it. I did sell all of my books, and it was great. So I was so glad that I didn't stay stuck in comparison. I'm still giving you the fundamentals of the story. I still gave you the facts of the story, but I didn't show you the story, which means I didn't visually transport you there. That has a greater impact on people when you visually transport them there, and it will move them into the action of saying yes to themselves, because now they have a visual of you saying yes to yourself. And when you can get people to visually see what you went through, see the pain, see the challenge, see the choices that you had to make, and then see the outcome of it, they want a similar outcome, which now positions them more so than before to say yes to signing up for whatever it is that you are offering, so that they can get there as well. And the last two points, maximize your stories to 3 to 5 minutes. Try not to go over that 5-minute mark, because then people are just like, oh my God, if she don't get to the point, or if he don't get to the point, like, did she ever say what happened? Like, they're just irritated now because you're taking too long to relay what the outcome was. And then the last point is to share the unpolished parts of the story the same way that you share the polished parts of the story. Shay, do you want to jump in?
Well, there was two things I wanted to say, because this is way more than we talked about doing, by the way. But talk about telling stories, okay?
Like, I know you were going to do a whole masterclass.
Yeah, right. And I'm being dead serious, everyone, as honest as I can. She's fired up. Don't worry. For those who be getting the workbook, we'll get some of the details right into the workbook, so you get that to them. But Cheryl, I'm curious, Dr. Wood. I'm curious. One, there are folks out there that are listening, and some of them have a story. Some of them have a book. Some of them do a webinar or a masterclass, and many of them are doing events. And some of them already have a topic, some don't. The reason I say that is I'm wondering, those folks out there, what your thoughts are, them taking maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and sharing on a story that shows us something, right? And shows us, tell the story, but then, as you said, show the story. And then you don't have to sell today. It's not about selling, but then serve us and say, hey, I've got this book, or hey, I learned this lesson, and this is the takeaway. And I'm going to ask Dr. Cheryl to kind of frame it. I just kind of threw it out there because I know the time we have, but I want you all to think about doing this, and she'll give you exactly what you're supposed to do, which I think I just did, but frame it probably a little better. And then I'm going to ask her to kind of role model something, right? Because some of you might not know she has something called Speaker Con. She had no know I was going to do this, and there might be a story that led to her having this conference. I don't know I think I remember the backstory. And it's really near and dear to her heart. And it's so near and dear to her heart. She's doing it again and again. And no matter when you get a hold of this recording, you can probably go to speakerconconference.com and you can see the details. But I want her to frame that conversation in a story, and why it exists, and the purpose. And then you as you're listening, because this is not you just being a freaking participant. This is going from a participant to a peer, where you're listening for your takeaways. And at the end, she's going to say, hey, you go tell some story that lets us know why this book is this, or how we benefit from it. So you don't have to be a hard sell, but wouldn't you be curious on the backstory of SpeakerCon and why it exists? I mean, wouldn't some of you just be curious? I know I am. So Dr. Cheryl, you mind taking a minute or two? And I know it's unfair of me, but two to do that. And then remind everyone out there, here's your homework assignments. You might say different. When we finish this, you grab your phone. You grab your phone and you go write down, and she told you to do 2 or 3 bullet points, and then you wrap it into a story. You're going to record it on your phone. You don't need anything fancy. Don't worry about your hair and all this other stuff. Just share it and then post it into the Facebook group. And I'm going to ask Dr. Cheryl, with everything going on, and she's got a lot going on, if she'll at least go in and review a few of them and then come back and then maybe record a quick, 2-minute message and give some feedback and then post right in the group. So you can go right back to the group, and she might post it at midnight. She might post it tomorrow. She might post it evening. She might watch 1 or 2, and she'll just do it on her phone, just real quick, and just pop it right in the group. Isn't that kind of cool? And I'll go in there and I'll give some feedback. So it's going to be amazing. So Dr. Cheryl, I know I took more time, but if you have 2 minutes, give us the backstory on Speaker Con. And again, you can all go to speakerconconference.com if you want to read all the fancy stuff about her. But you listen with this ear, how she wraps it into a story, and then how she maybe says you should be there. Over to you, Dr. Wood.
So the story behind SpeakerCon. So for me, I was in a space in my journey, and you guys know we talk about seasons and chapters. And I've been hosting this annual conference called Playtime is Over. And I know some of y'all love Playtime is Over, and you remember Playtime is Over. And although I had a heart for Playtime is Over, it came a time where it was over. 4 years in, I just could feel a pulling on myself that I wanted to solidify myself as an expert and as a specialist, not just a generalist. So the Playtime is Over conference was fun. It was amazing. It was a women in business conference. It did what it was meant to do for the 4 years that I did it. And then I decided it's time to pivot. It's time to really put your stake in the ground for the thing that you want to be known for as a specialist, as an expert. And speaking was it. That was the thing. I didn't care who else was doing it. I knew I wanted to do it. Now, my fear was, how do I branch out as someone who is still emerging as a speaker and say, I'm going to be the one to do SpeakerCon? And SpeakerCon really came because, again, I wanted to solidify myself as a speaker expert and executive speaker development coach. And I'd known all these other events that were related to con, the word con. I went to an event and it was a cookie con. There's Comic-Con. There's a t-shirt con. There's all these conventions. And I just kept thinking, I had this divine download. Why isn't there a SpeakerCon? Why is there no official con event for speakers? And I researched it and I researched and it blew my mind that it didn't exist. And then the second part was, okay, who am I? Who am I to? That makes me teary-eyed. It makes me emotional, because how many of you have ever said that to yourself? Who am I to launch this big vision? Who am I to be the one when there are all these other gurus and masters who are doing this thing and they've been doing it so much longer than me? Who am I? And I was stuck in but who am I season of my journey at that time. And so I let it sit and play in my mind, and I let it kind of dwell in my spirit for almost 2 years. And finally, I was done. I was tired of thinking about doing it. And I was like, I am the person who's called to do this. And it doesn't matter who else has been in speaking for 30 years or 40 years. It doesn't matter who else is a guru. I have the right. I get to choose that I'm also going to be a guru. And gurus aren't created overnight. And gurus aren't created by not taking risks. And gurus aren't created by not doing the things that scare them. So if I'm going to solidify my legacy as a speaker guru, I've got to execute this now. And I've got to execute the things that scare me. And I've got to execute the things that are big risk. And I got to execute the things that I feel like I'm not qualified for, but I know I am called to do. And I got out of my own way. And I branded it. And I got a logo created. And I trademarked it. And I did all the behind the scenes stuff that I needed to do. And I went over and I bought the website, the domain name, and everything I needed to do. And then I executed. Why? Knowledge is power, but knowledge executed is your superpower. And I wanted to play in my superpower. So I was looking at the legacy that I wanted to create down the road, like just kind of do like this, y'all. You know how you put your, like you're trying to see down the road. I was seeing down the road who I wanted to be, legacy I wanted to create, profit I wanted to make, impact I wanted to make. And that was going to be connected to me solidifying my specialty as a speaker development coach and this person who was going to be the visionary and founder of SpeakerCon, which would become so big that it will blow my mind, which we're still working to grow it because we're only in year 4 and 2 of the years got interrupted by COVID. So we had to do it virtually, not even in person. So that's kind of how SpeakerCon was birthed. And it was just not allowing anything to pull me from the vision that I had been given, regardless. Even sometimes you're the person holding yourself. It's not other people, it's you, because you don't think you're worthy. You don't think you're good enough. So that is my story behind SpeakerCon. And now it is a real live thing. And I launched it in 2019. That was the first live event. And then we got hit with COVID. I didn't stop doing it. I still kept moving. I pivoted. I shifted. We did it virtually for 2 years in a row, 2020 and 2021. Last year, at the kind of like as COVID was kind of slowing down, we decided to have a live element of SpeakerCon. So we did the gala as a live event, not the full conference. And now this year in 23 days, November 2nd through 5th, we're going back live. So we'll be together for 4 full days of SpeakerCon. So I can tie that story into challenging my clients to execute because I've executed. I can challenge them to combat a negative toxic mindset because I had to combat my own negative toxic mindset. I can challenge them to get into a space where they affirm that they are worthy and they are enough because I did it. I can challenge them to take risks because I took risks. Do y'all see all the ways that I can now turn that one story into lessons, into talking points, into takeaways for actual presentations that I deliver? That's just one story. And all of you should have a journal of stories that you can pull in to really drive home the point or the talking point or the takeaway that you are incorporating as a part of your presentation. So your homework assignment is going to be for each and every one of you to go into the group and to show us your story. Now, I can give you really quickly a rundown of a framework, as Shay was mentioning, but that's your homework assignment. And they need to do it within what? The next 24 hours, right, Shay?
Yeah, ideally you want to do it today. And when is the best time to take action? Now. When's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Now. So take some time today, 2 or 3 minutes of your time. You say, Shay, I don't have 2 or 3 minutes, then this might not be the right challenge for you. I mean, I'm being dead serious. I mean, you just don't have a life, right? 2 to 3 minutes with the phone in your hand and record it, post it into the group, and notice 2 things. Now, I know some of you are curious. It's speakerconconference.com. I don't take speakerconconference.com. You can go there. If there's tickets available, we'll see you there. Okay. Don't matter when you get this recording. If there's tickets available, we'll see you there. Number 1. Number 2, notice that she didn't sell. It wasn't a hard, it was, she was sharing how she's now serving. And many of you can imagine what she just did on your conference page. Some of you can imagine what she just did on your webinar page, on your book page. So you do the homework assignment. And then the promise is Dr. Cheryl will go in, Dr. Cheryl Wood will go in and maybe grab one of them, and whichever one she feels speaks to her heart, and she may share some feedback directly to that person. And what's the value of that? Because we've got to go now. The value of that's probably $19.97. I'm being dead serious. You get someone like Dr. Cheryl Wood to do a audit on your talk and give some feedback. It's a $2,000 plus value. And I'm being dead serious. I'm not no hokey dokey, make some money up. It's her time, her effort, and her expertise. That's a $2,000 value. Secondly, I will go in and look at it from a sales view of the world and just give my feedback, right? But you focus on showing and following exactly what she said. This recording will be in the Facebook group. And for those of the VIPs, you'll go back a second, a third, a fourth time, and it'll be posted there. So over the next 24 hours, go back into the Facebook group, Speak and Sell Challenge. Listen to this if you need to, fast forward it, do your homework assignment and post it. Dr. Wood, we've got to get out of here, but I want to give it to you to have some closing comments. For those folks that have been participating, certainly we really appreciate that. You're taking time, you're active, you're taking notes, and your comments help someone else. Your comments do bless someone else. So it does make a difference, and you learn. It's a different distinction when you're writing it down and you're actively participating versus passively sitting back saying, I heard it, I know it, I think it. is what are you doing every moment of every minute of every day. Dr. Wood did two very advanced techniques. First, an advanced technique called stacking. So she was stacking the deck against herself first. And then she did something called reverse stacking. She went back and said, what if? And it's some very advanced stuff there. And she took you on a journey so brilliantly. Here's what I want you to know. Every single one of you can do the exact same thing because systems beat goals every single time. And every single one of you can impact lives at a much higher level. Not that Dr. Wood is not good, but at a much higher level than she's doing right now, because you can take everything she's learned and you can improve on it and put your own spin on it. Isn't that kind of cool? Isn't that kind of cool that you could do that? So selling is not a secret, it's a system. Speaking is not a secret, it's a system. Over to you, Dr. Wood. We've got to get out of here. We're like 10 minutes over, and I know they would hang out here all day. But you got to jump on another thing now. They're waiting on you. Any closing comments for those folks that are out there? Tomorrow, you follow the schedule. You send the email out. Tomorrow, if possible, is all about winning stages, or more importantly, what does Dr. Wood do? What does she share with some of her other clients at masterminds that she does host and other things that's helping them right now? And then what do you need to do to take the first step to really be able to apply, to really put your name in the hat, to really be considered to be hired, not just on a stage, paid to be on the stage? And this is important because she's doing it every single day. All right, Dr. Wood, I'll give it to you. 2 minutes, maybe. I know we got to get out. We're overtime.
I know we are overtime. So look, we're giving love to everybody who stuck around, you know, a little bit longer than we expected. I got to shout out some folks. I know this has to be Dr. Emma, who says best coach ever, because she always says that. So good to see her here. Someone is asking, did I miss the challenge VIP option? But we got some great comments. Someone said this is already a different challenge and really good. This has been awesome. Yes.
So two things. One is you can go over to Speak and Sell Challenge VIP. Speak and Sell Challenge VIP if you want to be a part of VIP. VIP is rest of the week. After this is over with, well, before this is over with, there's a session that takes place, and you can ask your questions on a very private Zoom session. That's important. There's some goodies going to be released just there. Then there's an after party. Okay, I'm not here to push you to that, but that's for those folks that are serious, for those folks that are motivated, and for those folks that know that this is your time, this is your year, and you want to be on a team because success is a team sport. You recognize that. One of the successes that Cheryl mentioned, I was just at a mastermind with her. She might talk about that later on in the week. Is the power of being around association. And isn't that what it all boils down to? Systems, processes, people, and advisors. You get that together. That's the secret formula I have, and magic happens. Okay, I know you want to shout some folks out. Go ahead and do the shout out. Are you sure that wasn't the best coach wasn't Shay Brown? I mean, how do you know that was for you? You made an assumption through a story that was for you. It might have been like, hey, Shay, I appreciate you.
I know my people. I can't help it. I know my people. I know how they talk. I know what they say. We've been, I make that an intentional thing I do is I get to know my people. So yeah. So anyway, so just look, a couple things. Number one, don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed because you feel like, oh my God, it's so much. It's one thing at a time, one step at a time, one movement at a time. One video at a time, right? And people ask me all the time, have you always been this confident? Have you always been this great of a storyteller? No. Can I just say heck to the no? It has been a system that I've followed. It's a process, practicing. Some of the things that we'll talk about as well throughout the rest of the course of the week is it's all about being willing to grow, being willing to start where you are and grow to where you want to be. Let's word it that way. Start where you are to grow to where you want to be. So when you're doing your videos, guys, don't expect perfection. Don't aim for perfection because it is.
Don't get dressed up for us. I'm joking.
It's not even an achievable goal to aim for perfection. Why would you aim for perfection? But also, number two, don't discount yourself and not do the assignment because you feel like you're going to compare yourself to somebody else. Well, they're going to sound better than me, or they know what they're doing. A part of you being able to get to a space where you want to be is being willing to be vulnerable enough to do it based on what you know right now. If you consistently do it based on what you know right now, and you slowly make it better every time that you do it again, that's how you get into a space of progress, not perfection, but progress. And that's what all of us should be expecting from ourselves. Am I consistently progressing? Day by day, am I becoming better today than I was yesterday? Is my storytelling skills becoming better today than it was yesterday? My ability, my willingness to come to the front of the room and share my voice. am I doing better today than I was yesterday? And that only comes from planning, practice, and preparation. So let's do some practice. This is your time to do some practicing. And the beautiful thing is it's in a safe space, in our safe community on Facebook, so that you can get feedback. I'm taking time from my schedule, y'all, 23 days before my conference. So you can imagine the craziness that's happening with prepping for a conference of this magnitude, SpeakerCon. But I care enough about you and I want to see you grow that I'm going to go into the group and I'm going to give some feedback to those of you who post your videos. So just get it done and avoid two things: procrastination and perfection.
With that being said, we're out. Thanks a lot for joining day 1 of the Speak and Sell Challenge with Dr. Wood. That's the Dr. Wood, the one and only, the one that makes things happen, and myself, Shay Brown. We'll see you later in the private Facebook group, and every one of you will see you tomorrow. Do the homework, do the homework, do the homework. We're out. Peace. God bless, and keep doing God's work. Bye-bye.